This week has been one of the hardest weeks I think our family's had ever in a really long time, but we went ahead and got through it. And then I came back, and I haven't really been in the garden because we've been doing so much as a family and handling all my mom's affairs and all of that stuff. So I came back and we had all of these blossoms blossoming. Some haven't opened up yet. This is our crabapple tree, and I know it's a little blurry. I'm just in a weird position in the sun during this time of day, I think. But look at this. I mean, they're absolutely gorgeous. I think some of them have been open for a bit because it looks like they're starting to die down. Some are kind of shrivel up, and some, here's this one. These are kind of the in-between stage. And let me see if I can't get around up high. So here are more blossoms, and they're kind of in different stages. You can see petals are falling. So I don't know if the lighter ones are the older flowers or exactly how that works, to be honest. Oh man. Apparently there's a hidden ant bed right down here. It doesn't look like one, but I was standing on it trying to get some images of the crabapple tree, and they started biting me. Fire ants are terrible down here. Okay, so here's kind of the older blossoms right here. You can see they're a little shriveled up and all of that. And it looks like they're starting to fall out. Now, I don't know if we'll actually get any crab apples. This tree has produced small crab apples before, but they never fully mature before dropping or the ants or aphids coming after them. The tree is not very big. Well, it's about 8 feet tall, but it doesn't have a lot of... It's not really branched out, I guess is the way to put it. And you can see there's a lot of new growth on it everywhere. So I'm waiting to see exactly how this tree will look when it fills out. But when we got it, I planted it, I think last year. I cut a lot of the growth back and kind of shaped it a little bit better. So that's where we're at right now with it. But this tree always cheers me up. I would love to have more apple, even crabapple trees. Crabapples are really great for making pectin. They are edible. Just a little more bitter than normal apples, but like I said, for pectin, they are amazing, and they are absolutely gorgeous. So instead of lining my driveway with crepe myrtles, like so many do, I always said that I would line it with maybe some crab apples. So here's kind of the full height of the tree. You can see it's not the best looking tree, and it's trying to grow because we really just cut it way far back when we bought it and planted it so that we could focus on root growth. So I'm excited to see exactly what happens over the next couple of years. You can see it's fairly skinny, whereas our Gala apple tree actually has a pretty good sized trunk already. This one's still a little small, much bigger than it was though. And here at the bottom, you can see there's some growth down here, and that actually needs to be cut off. And then way down here is this branch is coming out, so I need to cut that off before it gets too thick and starts to become an issue. So I really don't want any branches growing that far down. And then the one coming at the very bottom, that's coming around the graft, so definitely want to cut that off because I don't even know what this is grafted to. And then all of this light colored wood is actually the new growth, and you can see more coming up here. So while it's still young and new, it's a great time to kind of trim it and shape it, in my opinion. I know a lot of people do so in the winter time, but for me, I don't want the tree to waste all that energy growing these branches that I'm not really wanting to keep. So here is one of the, I think this one was the Gala apple tree, and you can see on it, the growth is doing really well. It just started growing out of nowhere once we started getting rain. It was kind of stunted throughout the summer, and now all of this new growth, I mean, just this one branch right here, there's over 2 feet of new growth coming from it. So I'm excited to see how well this grows before winter hits. It should grow quite a bit, and if this is how well it's growing now, then next spring it should also put on quite a bit of growth, and I'm excited for that. I don't think I'll let it produce apples for a couple of years, but I will let it continue to grow and produce strong branches and roots. That way when it does produce, we don't have to worry about a ton of breakage. So that is something that's going to be really important. And then here you can see the branches. It's actually a little thicker than it looks in the video, but still, it's still a fairly young tree also. And then way over here, I'm gonna walk over there. You can see where we had this random bucket out. It's full of mulch because we were mulching before everything happened. And then honestly, in the last week, we've just been so busy with arrangements and everything else that we have not had time to garden. But I think it's time to get into the swing of gardening again. For me, gardening is healing and therapy. So I know once I get started, you know, it'll be good for me. Just getting to that point and finding some motivation. And then this is a Prince peach tree. It is a tree that we planted during the spring, I think. And I planted it last year right before winter. And this spring I thought it had died and I was going to pull it up, and my husband told me to wait. And come June or July, which was well after spring because we're in Southeast Texas, that's summer here, the leaves started coming out on all three. At first there was just one, and so I'm guessing it's definitely alive, and I'll see how well it grows. I'm just not sure this was the right choice of tree for Southeast Texas, to be honest, but I really need to do more research on it. It was kind of a surprise buy. I don't even remember where I got it from. I might have that information in past videos, which as winter comes, I'll start looking at more videos and everything else and kind of seeing where we got things and how the past was. That's the cool thing about blogging, is you can kind of look over there and see past information and where you got things that you may have otherwise forgotten. And it's also nice to look over the garden and see like how much it has produced, because when it's super hot and it's not really producing, it gets kind of depressing. And let's see. So this is all the okra right in here, and the okra usually gets really tall. It's one of those giant plants that choke everything out. But these are the heavy hitter okra, and they stunted a lot this summer. They didn't really grow like I expected. They're much smaller than any other okra plants I've ever grown before. And I know it was probably because of the drought, but okra's supposed to do really good during hot weather. And I'm just not impressed with us. So I don't know if we got a bad batch of seeds or it's just that the weather was absolutely horrible. But you can see a lot of these tips are just, they're rotten. And so that's really strange. I've never seen that on an okra. Even the top of this plant's kind of rotten. So I don't know what's going on or if it was a disease, but it is producing, they are producing these gorgeous flowers again. And you can see baby okra. I actually came out last night and picked okra. And for them doing so poorly, they are producing an okay amount of okra. I guess it wouldn't be a lot compared to what they should be producing. And you can see a lot of unopened flowers on this plant. And here's one okra that's already come.
I found a baby okra.
You found a baby okra?
Yeah.
That is awesome, sister. And there's a flower.
See, sister?
Oh yeah, and she found a baby okra next to the flower. So they are producing. And I was cutting up some okra, but they're not producing like they should. Yeah, especially if they were really tall, like they should have been. We'd probably be getting tons of okra, but the tallest plant is probably 3.5, 4 feet tall, and not even 4 feet, I would say. So it's really concerning. I'm gonna give this another chance, but I think I'm gonna buy seeds, buy new seeds, because I'm just not impressed with these. This one does have one that's ready.
Oh, can I pick it?
Yeah, go ahead. Get it? Oh, great. Let's show my little sister picking one of the okra that's ready. And then right here, I actually found this basil plant in my oldest son's garden bed. Most of the plants were not doing so hot because they need to be replaced. It's a perennial garden, and some of them have been there for several seasons. But this basil I found when it was a baby, and I just went ahead and planted it here, and it didn't grow throughout the summer, but now the weather's cooler and it has these ochre to kind of shade it. It's starting to take off. That's a sweet basil, and one of my favorite things in the world is sweet basil lemonade, so I'm really excited to try that out. Now, my little sister and we started cleaning out this bed, what do you say, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
And then tragedy struck, so, which I know can be confusing. My biological mom is the mother of my little sister, which, you know, we live on the same property with right now. She's the one that bought our house. My stepmom, her and my dad were married for 28 years, and she raised me. I lived with them growing up. She is my angel, and unfortunately she passed away a week ago today, so we have really just let the garden go even more, and now we're trying to get out here and finish what we started. But in here we pulled out all the weeds before all this happened, but you can see that since we haven't been in here, there are quite a few things growing back in, including vineweed. And so the big thing is just coming in and getting all these weeds out. And then we have tons of seeds. We have lettuce and kale, you name it, we have it. I think I may even have some onion seeds, but I'm not sure. But I did notice a few of the onion plants, actually we did not harvest them, and they are growing back. So I may be able to get seeds off that, with these being second year plants. But definitely we're going to weed this out and get some seeds planted inside of it and get things growing. Last year I grew all that lettuce in here and made videos about that and harvesting. So maybe that's what we'll grow, or kale. We could also, because it does have these trellis poles on it, another thing that we could end up planting is peas, because I think we have a lot of peas. The biggest thing is just making sure that we hit that window of when it's not so hot that it's going to kill them, but not so cold it's going to freeze them. And I think we're getting close to that time now that October will be here in less than a week, so it's time to just get everything planted, and I think peas would probably be a good option. And then if I turn around here, you can see what I'm talking about these onions. I thought I pulled them all out, and I went to pull a couple out thinking they were probably rotting, and noticed that they're actually still growing. The roots look really good on them, so I'll probably see if they go ahead and produce stalks, and maybe we can actually get some seeds from them. But they didn't really bulb out super big, or maybe they did and then the bulbs got used again. We ate most of these onions, so this is just what I found hiding underneath the weeds, but you can see got pretty big, and there was full in here too. So over here is where we had removed that border so we could get the little tiny cabin in right there. And I cut back the plants pretty significantly, and this one has a lot of gorgeous green growth on it, so it's really growing. The only time these plants really stop growing is when it's incredibly hot, or when it, like February is the coldest month of the year for us, so they usually stop growing a little bit, but they never truly go dormant for a long time, and so they grow pretty much all year round. So the cool thing is they produce berries on first and second year growth. So it doesn't hurt for us to cut these all the way back to the ground.
Oh, these are your blackberries.
Yeah, these are blackberries, exactly. And so you can see this green growth is pretty incredible. It is growing really, really well.
I like the bed over there.
I do too. And then here's the one that I cut down, and it's got a little new growth.
It's growing back.
And this one, so they'll probably start growing back. But then there's one random one over here. But all this grass needs to come out. It's growing in the walkway. All this needs to be cleaned up, but it's still pretty hot. So that's one of those things where we're going to have to come out here probably super early in the morning. We could come out here later in the evening, but mosquitoes are really bad. And so early morning seems to be the sweet spot for everything before the sun gets up too high. So that's probably what I'll do over the next few days, is just get out here early, because this soil looks amazing. You can see kind of here in the layering where it's really broken down. since we put it in, because remember this was mushroom compost. And so this is going to be great soil to grow in. And I think that's something we definitely want to focus on. I have much better success growing fall and winter crops like kale and lettuce than I do early spring crops. This is the first year that I've really had some success with squash, and we had to get them in early to make sure that we got a crop before squash bugs, and I never put out the second crop. I grew the second crop plants, and life got so busy I left them on the seed shelf so long that they just died. They just starved and died. So my goal next year is to be much more productive with the garden. So this whole bed is completely empty right here, and this little triangle bed has all the perennial herbs and stuff in it, but this one is empty.
It looks like someone just pulled something out of it.
There was a potato plant planted there earlier in the year, so that's why it looks like it's been pulled out. I see some vineweed growing down there.
It looks like there's a baby mushroom right there.
Yeah, but don't touch it. It's probably poisonous because it's a wild mushroom. The fennel always never disappoints when it's growing. I did notice, so I planted these sugar baby watermelons early in the, like maybe May, and they stunted from us not being here and there not being any rain all summer. And I noticed they're actually growing, and they're growing quite a bit out of nowhere. They're even trying to flower. So I'm wondering if, now these vines only get to be about 6 feet long, and they're about a foot now, maybe a little longer than a foot. So I'm wondering if they'll actually produce a crop. But I don't have anything to plant in there right now, so I'm just going to let them go and see what happens. That's the plan. And then right along here we have the 2 blackberries along the border, and it looks like they're trying to make a comeback now that it's raining. Oh yeah, we have some new growth. The poor grapevine. I'm gonna cut this back and put it somewhere else. I just have to talk to my parents and see where they would like it.
Flowers.
Yeah, the flowers came back. So last week before last, I started coming out here pulling out the weeds and flowers, and collecting these seeds right here, because there are actually quite a bit of seeds, you see, like in each one. So if you buy a wildflower mix once, I guarantee you'll have wildflowers forever. And they are, all different ones are producing flowers again. So I came and cut back a lot of the dead growth. You can see there's a lot of dead growth in here. So this all needs to be cleared out. This has managed to grow. That tells you exactly how much I've not been taking care of the plants this summer. And then all of these flowers are coming back everywhere. So they look really, really good coming through. So I just need to come in and get rid of the old growth. But you can see even the little yellow flowers are coming back. This is my rose bush right there where I make my tea rose. It's coming back. And then right in here, you can see these 4 little bulbs right there, seed heads. Those are from the wild bergamot, the bee balm. It's a purple bee balm. So I'm gonna cut those seeds off and put them in a jar. I just need to be careful because one of my sisters is allergic to mint, but it's only when she ingests it. So I'll just make sure that she knows. And then I will have bee balm for life, which bee balm is one of my favorite plants. There's just seeds everywhere.
It looks like an acorn.
It does look like an acorn. You're right about that. It's funny. There's a lot. It looks like a lot of buttercups, so wild flowers growing in here. And then you can see where the grapevine that was planted over here took over. The original idea was to put a fence here and let these grapes vines grow all over the fence, but we ended up selling the house to my mom and her husband instead. And so the grapevines are just going wild. And I'm going to talk to her because she may want to move these vines to a different location, like the back fence. There were actually some grapes on here that we were eating about a week ago, but I think we've pretty much, between the animals and all the kids, have gotten all the grapes off the vine.
I haven't got one.
I'm sorry.
But
there might be some grapes in the other vine if you want to look.
Yeah.
That vine that's over there.
The one at the end or the one standing up?
No, the one at the end.
Okay.
It's like growing by the watermelons.
Okay, I'll get it.
This grapevine's getting long, like it's trelling all the way over to here. When we move it, it won't keep all this growth. Look, the growth is way over here. It's ridiculous. It won't keep all this growth. We'll actually cut it back and move it while it's dormant, likely. Look at the pathway. But you guys have been around long enough to see where I mulch this in. You know that I just have not come and cleaned the weeds out of it because you actually have to maintain your pathways. This, actually, like a bunch of marjoram has basically grown everywhere. And then this is the marjoram plant right here. These are the chives, which, no, they don't need water. They're pretty well watered from the rain the last week or two.
Yeah.
Here's some chives down there, and then poison ivy. So that's got to go so that the chives can grow so we don't get sick. And then right here is some lemon balm, and it is I think... It's not lemon balm. What is it called? Lemon something. Oh, it's lemon thyme. And
What's this plant?
it's managed to make it through all of this heat. So that's kind of where we're at. That's marjoram.
This is an apple.
Yeah, this is an apple tree, and it's doing pretty good. I think it's pronounced Ian Shemer. I can't remember how to pronounce it. A Jerusalem apple. And they only need 100 freeze hours, so they do really good in southern states like Texas. And you can see where the branches are all growing out pretty well again. And then over there, that big tree is my Gala apple tree. Yeah. So this is a blueberry bush. Pretty much all the blueberry bushes died. I don't think a single one survived during the summer. Even the loquat tree did not make it. It looks pretty dead. Every single one of the branches. And the other one died back, but this one still had green leaves and suddenly it didn't. So I'm going to wait to see if any growth comes up. There's a little bit at the bottom, but I'm pretty sure these trees are goners. So we need to probably get rid of them. As for blueberries, I don't think I'm going to be planting anymore because, yeah. So I'm not planting more blueberries here because the zone we're moving to is much better suited. It's a cooler region. It's much better suited for blueberries and the soil and the temperature. So I'm just going to wait and grow some up there, and that's why I'm not worried about it down here. Plus, I don't think everyone would be able to manage them on top of everything else. So now this is the goji berry. It has been growing for a few seasons here. You can see we periodically will just run it over the lawnmower. My husband does that. But it has a ton of flowers on it. I know gojis aren't everyone's favorite plant, but I like goji berries, and I think that if you actually let them fully get ripe, they're not that bad, especially if you just throw them into your smoothies or whatever. So I really like gojis. They're fun for the kids, and when we had ducks, the ducks absolutely adored them. But this is a ton of flowers growing out here, so I'm excited about that. They are gorgeous. So here's the cabin, and on top of it, we managed to get a little weather unit. I went to Tractor Supply for something, I think to look for chicks, because my parents were talking about getting some, but they didn't have any. But they have this little weather station, and it has a screen too, and they had it marked down quite a ways, and we ended up getting it for 50 bucks. It's usually 120, so it's not bad. It actually works great. And then I also went about an hour away and picked up this portable AC, and we stuck it in the window, so that's keeping the temperatures down quite a bit, at least in the 70s in there. We probably need a bigger unit, but it was a good temporary fix. I would take it in and show you, but I don't have my key on me right now, and I'm actually getting really sleepy. I think everything's just kind of catching up. And then right in here, the banana trees. Now, if you've seen previous videos, like from years past, you know these things get massive. They tower over me. But this year, with the lack of rain and us not having ducks to get their pond water onto these, they stunted really, really bad. So if you're struggling to grow bananas, likely they need water. They absolutely adore water. They need it constantly. Looks like all these wasps are enjoying it regardless. They love the banana trees, so just a fair warning if you're not a fan of wasps. But in here, the grass is starting to grow back where we had the animals at. Usually I kept it in control. So I think what I'm going to do, because we don't have any kind of poultry right now, is come in here and get my sisters to help me plant some plants and make this into a temporary garden. It's a huge space. It doesn't have anything in it, so why not make use of that instead of just worrying about clearing out gardens and make it into a gardening area this season. And then we have animals, of course they can eat whatever's left over from the garden, and I think it's a win-win for everyone. But like I said, look at this, it's completely cleared out. So we'll come in here and move these blocks and probably plant directly in them, but it has to be something that grows really fast, because even though it's extremely dry now, you've seen videos in the past, when winter gets here, this area holds a ton of water, which is why we always had ducks and not so much chickens, because waterfowl didn't care if there was water everywhere. So it's probably the emptiest I've ever seen this area. As you can see, just absolutely nothing except for old feathers from where we did have animals. But if I would have known we were selling to family, I probably wouldn't have got rid of all the animals, but I didn't know. So now we kind of have to start, not quite from square one because we have all the infrastructure, but it's definitely going to be different. And it's difficult buying animals right now, and they are hard to come by, and they are not cheap. So my mom says she's going to end up starting with about 6 chickens, 6 adult chickens, and go from there. She's more of a chicken person than a duck person. She found some okra seeds when she was with the okra, so that's pretty cool. I think those might be immature, but I have some big okra seeds that are dry that I'll get you to help me de-seed later and save the seed for next year. I'm a little nervous saving the seed because, like you guys saw, the okra did not do great this year, but I'm going to try it, and I'm also going to get some new seed. I have some other seeds like the orange Jing okra and the burgundy okra I also want to buy. I might try some Texas Hill Country out here. I know it grows well, you just have to watch it because it's a squatty okra and it gets really big really fast as far as width grows. But so this is kind of where we're at. There is a lot of nothing going on. There are a lot of things going on and nothing at all, it seems. So I'm excited to get out here and start planting and see how things go and video it. I know I haven't really been around much doing a whole lot, but it's been a whirlwind and a very unexpected one. And to be honest, we're all just completely exhausted. Grief makes you much more tired than I had ever expected. So I'm going to go in and get some rest. I'll upload this at some point. Thank you guys for sticking out during the hard seasons. I know we have gorgeous garden season and we make a lot of videos and we will produce a ton and we show every step, but we also have these off seasons where life just happens, things aren't growing well, it's hot and we're exhausted. And I want to be open about that because people who don't know that gardening is not always going to be a great season give up easily, and there's no point in giving up. It's just waiting until the good season comes back. You know, everything comes in seasons. There are highs and lows throughout life. It's just a part of it. So if you're kind of in the spot where we're at, where nothing's really growing and you don't have motivation, it will come. Just give it time, stick with it, work through your lack of motivation. I promise the motivation will come back around. So thank you guys for checking out my garden, and I can't wait when it starts to really cool off and come October, November, when we have a ton of kale and lettuce and onions and all of those fun things getting planted. So thank you guys for sticking around with me, and if you're in the same season we are, just focus on rest